الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيبنا وحبيب رب العالمين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. Who remembers what chapter we are on? We didn't have it last week, right? Because, what chapter is it? Yes, it's the chapter of Mujahadah, striving for Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala's pleasure. Right? So we're halfway into the bab, maybe a little bit more. But there's several ahadith in here. Because remember this book, Riyadhus, Saliheen, it's a book of suluk. It's a book of a person gaining nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the most important ingredients in that and most important factors in gaining this nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in opposing one's nafs, in working hard to fight the nafs. Is life or did you?
Life, yes.
Let's give me 1 second. I'll promote you today.
Yes.
You're always promoting me. I'll promote you. I'll just post it, right? So that everybody will be happy. You guys should give Brother Izzuddin some love. So, anyways, this book is a book of suluk, and mujahadah is one of the most important things. A person opposing their nafs, a person fighting against shaitan, fighting against their desires to do that which pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So last time, meaning 2 weeks ago, we went over a hadith in which Huzaifa radiallahu anha, he spoke about praying tahajjud in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In one rakat, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he began reciting. And then Huzaifa radiallahu anhu said, I think he'll stop after 100 ayahs. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam kept going in Surah Baqarah. So then he finished Surah Baqarah. After that, he said he'll go to ruku. But then Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he continued. He recited Surah An-Nisa. And then Nabi Huzaifa radiallahu anhu thought to himself, maybe he'll go to ruku then. After that, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he also recited Surah Ali Imran. And then he went to ruku. And then the ruku was in concordance with how long. It was proportional, that's the word. Proportional to how long the qira was. It wasn't the same amount, because that would be hours long ruku as well. But if a person is reading a long, tilawa, you're not going to do that ruku, right? Ruku at sajda. The ruku at sajda will be long as well. And so the ruku was very long, the qawma was very long, the sajda was very long. And the point of that was Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, despite being لِيَغْفِرَ لَكَ اللَّهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِن ذَنْبِكَ وَمَا تَأَخَّرَ, the one who, and every sin, though he's sinless, even if there were to be any sin theoretically, it's all forgiven, yet he used to strive this much for Allah's pleasure. And when you hear about these hadith, right, then you see this is how Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's feet swole. When a person is reciting Surah Baqarah and Surah Ali Imran and Surah Nisa, etc., all in one rak'ah, and that's just one rak'ah, and you stand that long, night after night, yes, your feet might swell. It won't swell from reading Inna Atainaka al-Kawthar, Qul Allahu Ahad, Inna Atainaka Qul Allahu Ahad. Right? Now, we come to another hadith about the tahajjud of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, At-Tasi', the 9th one in the chapter. عن ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه قال, Ibn Mas'ud رضي الله عنه, he narrates, صليت مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ليلة. I prayed with Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم one night. Meaning Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم was praying tahajjud. Abdullah bin Mas'ud رضي الله عنه, he went and he joined Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم. He did iqtida. Look, if a person is praying, you can go and you can join them. You have the niyat of iqtida, praying behind them. If the person is praying silently, if they make the niyat of imamat, then they'll start to begin to read loud and everything, and they'll get the reward of being the imam. Okay? If they decide not to make the niyat of being your imam, then what they'll do is, they'll continue to read silently, you'll just follow along. Your iqtida of him counted. Meaning you prayed behind him, it counted, even if he didn't intend to be your imam. Okay? This is a fiqh masala. Now, he said, I prayed with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam one night. فَأَطَالَ الْقِيَامِ, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he extended this qiyam. حَتَّى هَمَمْتُ بِأَمْرٍ سُوءٍ, until I thought, بِأَمْرِ سُوءٍ, I thought to myself, I resolved to do something bad. Two things here. First of all, Abdullah bin Masud radiallahu anh, he himself used to pray long tahajjud. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's usual practice was at night, after Isha, he, Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anh would sit together and speak about the Muslims, about the Ummah, what needs to be done. They will make mashwara for some time. And that sometimes would go very long. Then one night Rasulullah was doing this. After this long discussion, he came into the masjid. He saw Abdullah bin Masud radiallahu anh praying, and he was reciting a bit loudly. So Rasulullah stood and he listened and listened. And then he said, Man ahabba an yaqra al-Qur'ana ratban kama unzila falyaqra ala qira'at ibn ummi abd. If a person wants to recite the Qur'an as fresh as it was when it was revealed, they should recite in the qira'ah of Abdullah bin Masud. They should recite like Abdullah bin Masud radiallahu anh. So he's known for his love of the Qur'an. And once Umar radiallahu anh, when he was the Khalifa, somebody came from Kufa and said that there's a man in Kufa, what he does is, he narrates the Qur'an and he tells people write it down. So Umar radiallahu anh became very upset. Because he said that we compiled the Qur'an in the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anh to prevent things like this. Why is this person doing this? He said, who is it? They said, Abdullah bin Masud. Then he became calm and he mentioned the same hadith. And he said, if Abdullah bin Masud is doing it, he has the right to do so. Okay? So Abdullah bin Masud used to pray a long tahajjud, and he was strong, he was young, all of those things. Yet he said, this salah was so long, hamamtu bi amri su'in, I resolved to do something bad. Qila, it was said to him, meaning his student said to him, wama hamamta bi, what did you intend to do? This teaches us something else, right? If a teacher is saying something and it's ambiguous, or if you're talking to somebody and you have that relationship with them, right? Not, somebody who you don't know, but somebody who you have that relationship with, they're speaking and they say something ambiguous and you want to clear up the ambiguity, there's no problem in asking. Especially if that ambiguity is not cleared up, if that matter is not, crystal clear, it may lead you to assume bad things about them. Inna ba'da dhanni ithm. To think some suspicions about people are sins, right? So if you're going to suspect something bad about them, just clear it up. So they cleared it up. قال هممت أن أجلس وأدعه. He said that I intended to sit down and leave it or leave him. Okay, now, meaning leave standing with Rasulullah, not abandon the salah. Meaning Abdullah bin Masud radiallahu ta'ala, he said that the bad thing that if it was me or you, what will they say? Imam Sahib ko, if it was me, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? Like, how is he reading so long, right? Why is salat more than 8 minutes, right? And if it's going so long, if the Imam reads Surah Baqarah, we'll leave, right? Or we'll have a strategy, it's Shabina night. I'm not saying whether that's jaiz or not, but if somebody's doing Shabina, we'll sit. Let's join after 2 hours, right? Let's join in the ruku of the first rakah. That reminds me, I'll tell you just a funny story, I'll come back. Hazrat Shaykh Maulana Zakaria rahmatullahi alayhi, his father Maulana Yahya was very pakka hafiz. He was a pakka hafiz. And if you ask any hafiz what their most difficult para is, usually like 14th para, 23rd para, 24th para. He was traveling in Ramadan, so he arrived at the masjid he was going to, and Tarawih was going on, so he wanted to go and rest in the room. He said, I'll pray Tarawih later. He said the Imam was reading 14th para and he was making mistakes, it says in there, like most Imams make in 14th para. So then he said, my father, he stood up and he went to the Imam, he asked him to move from the musalla and he began to lead. And he said he began to lead and something happened. There was some hal, something that came over him, such that he recited the rest of the Quran that night. Right? He started from 14th, he went to the end. He said when he got to Min al-Jinnati wan Nas, the Musallis were shocked, upset, and relieved as well. Now they can do Surah Tarawih for the rest of Ramadan. Okay, so coming back now. So Abdullah bin Masud radiallahu anh, he said the thing that I thought was bad was that I continue praying with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but that I would sit. Now look, as far as the fiqh masala, if you're praying nawafil, if you want to sit down, if you're getting tired, you could sit down and you could continue. You started standing, you could sit down and you could pray, right? For nawafil, without any excuse, you could sit down and pray as well. Like you don't feel like standing, you're not sick or anything, you could sit and pray, you get half the reward, right? So he's not doing anything that's not permissible over here. Yet he said that he felt it's bad. So what Allama ibn Hajar Asqalani rahmatullahi alayhi is the he wrote a famous commentary of Bukhari Sharif called Fathul Bari. He writes that in there we learn a point that the proper adab is that younger people, they follow whatever halat or condition elders around them are in, right? Younger and older, or a person who's more senior to you than in status, even though you may be older than them in age. So for example, if elders are standing up, a younger person, they shouldn't be sitting down. They should also stand up if elders are standing up. Okay? If your father is still eating, you should take a little bit of food and continue to eat with him. Right? If there's a gathering and people are reading Quran and you're done reading Quran, but elder people are still reading Quran, rather than just sit around and begin to chit chat with friends, you should continue reading Quran. This applies both ways, in younger, older, or in status. For example, there was one Sahabi, somebody asked, he said, are you Akbar or Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Because he was close to the age of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Akbar means older, right? So he said, are you Akbar? But it could also mean greater, or is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? He said, Ana asan. He's like, Huwa Akbar wa ana asan. He's greater than me, but I'm older than him. I have more years than him. Wa ana asan. So even if the person's status is more than you, it's munasib that you do whatever their halat is, you also follow them in that. If they're sitting on the ground, you should sit on the ground. You shouldn't sit up on a chair, right? If they're standing up, you should stand up. This is adab that's taught. Abdullah bin Masud, why did he say that this is a bad thing? Because it's a lack of adab, and that's it, right? Adab is something that gets a person close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Famous saying, right? Be adab, be nasib. Ba adab, ba nasib. The one who has adab, they'll have good fortune. And as we'll see in the one or two riwayats after this, you'll see another sahabi, just because of his adab with Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he made a special dua for this sahabi. Okay? So, what we learned, why this hadith is in Bab al-Mujahadah, is again, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's tahajjud. The next hadith, Al-Ashir an Anas radiyallahu anhu an Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam قال يتبع الميت ثلاثة. Anas radiyallahu anhu narrates that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, three things follow the dead person. Ahluhu, his family. That happens even now. The family goes with them. Okay? Wamaluhu, and the person's wealth. In the times of Jahiliyyah, they would take signs of the person's wealth and take it to the grave with him. And if you go to the Egyptian empires and you go to other empires, they would bury famous people with their wealth. Even now they found, I think it was in Mongolia or something, they found a skeleton and they found all of this gold and stuff with him in the grave. Some people would take it to the grave. Others, what do? They would take it just to put a show that this is what this person was. وَعَمَلُهُ, and the person's deeds will go with them. فَيَرْجِعُ اثْنَانِ وَيَبْقَى وَاحِدٌ. Two will return back from where they came. وَيَبْقَى وَاحِدٌ, but one thing will remain. يَرْجِعُ أَهْلُهُ وَمَالُهُ, his family and his wealth will return. وَيَبْقَى عَمَلُهُ, his deeds will remain. مُتَّفَقٌ عَلَيْهِ. Hadith is narrated by Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim. What we learn from this is very simply that wherever we put our efforts, right? When we put our efforts towards something, it should be something that lasts. If me or you dedicates our efforts towards getting a lot of wealth, inshallah we'll get a lot of wealth, right? We want a Mercedes, we'll get a Mercedes, right? Mercedes isn't going anywhere with us, right? Or even our family will work for them, but we work for them with the niyyah that this is an amana. But if it's just, we disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our family to make our family happy, they're not coming with us into the grave. But our deeds, that's what's going with us. So we need to put the way that we try to earn money, we should try to earn good deeds. Because those good deeds, that's what's going to last. That's what's going to go with us. I'll say one other thing about the family following the mayyit. This is a problem that we have in this day and age. Khuda ki waste, please have respect for the mayyit, have respect for death, have respect for the family. There's two things. Number one, there's no need to make a video. No need to make a video, right? It's haram to take a picture of somebody in a halat that they wouldn't want a picture of them taking. Haram. I'll say most ulama, even now they say digital pictures aren't allowed, but everybody they just do it. I'll say many ulama still say that. Taking that bahas aside, digital picture halal or haram. It's haram to take a picture of anybody in a condition that they don't want the picture to be taken. For example, somebody has their finger in their nose and you take a picture of them. It's haram for you to, right? Do you think that a person that's dead wants a picture taken of them? And we take these videos and this and that, well, we ibrat. Nobody watches these videos again. They just sit in the phone. Again, it's not fard to do a Zoom call so that all of these people can see the person dead. Right? How many Sahaba died outside? If Rasulullah made dua, Allah could have transported him there to lead their janazah. There was no need to do so. There's no need to do so. Just live in the moment. Don't live and look at life through a screen. That's the important thing. Number two, when a person dies, and please tell everybody this, okay? It's not a competition. At every janazah, there's certain people, they try, forget about the dead person, they make the janazah all about themselves. One time, me and Imam Ihsan, we went to a janazah. One of us recited, one of us made dua. Apparently, our dua wasn't emotional enough, so one other guy started making dua after us. Nobody asked him, nobody anything. One guy is standing there like Peyton Manning, doing audibles, moving to someone, you move this way, you move that way. The body's as it should be. Then the person, just to show, I know what I'm doing, they'll adjust it, 1 centimeter this way, put dirt inside, and then get all emotional. They never even met the person in their life, okay? Again, don't make it out to be a show. This is a big problem. It's a spiritual disease. Sometimes people, they make moments, somber, serious moments, they make it all about themselves. We should be careful about both of these things. Okay? Last hadith, I'll read it because why? It's related to something very interesting that happened today in Tawheed Center. And then we'll finish it. I was going to do one or two more. We'll leave that for next time. الحادي عشر عن ابن مسعود the 11th hadith عن ابن مسعود رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الجنة أقرب إلى أحدكم من شراك نعله. Jannah is more near to a person than the straps on his sandals. How close is that to you? Very close. وَالنَّارُ مِثْلُ ذَلِكَ, and the fire is the same. رواه البخاري. Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayh, he narrates this hadith. What is meant by this, right? What's meant by this is that for a person to go into Jannah, it's easy. What does a person need to do? A person needs to make intention to do good and then do it. The recipe is very easy. And there's opportunities to do good deeds all the time around us. And the recipe to go to Jahannam is that a person resolves to follow their desires and they go ahead and they do it, right? And anything that a person does, any good deed that a person does, it will bring them closer to Jannah. And it's a means, inshallah, of them entering Jannah. And any deed that we do, it has the potential to be that deed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I don't care what it is, this is the thing that's making the person go to Jannah. And on the other hand, any bad deed that we do, it takes us further from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we don't know. It could be some deed that we think is insignificant, but it's a sin, and it's that sin that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is the reason that the person is going to Jahannam. Hadith of Bukhari Sharif, Anas radiallahu anh says that nowadays, you guys, talking to the tabi'een, not to us, talking to the tabi'een, you guys consider some deeds adakku min ash-sha'r, that are more light to you than a hair, meaning you do them without thinking, but we used to consider them to be the mubiqat, destructive things in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? They used to take certain things so seriously in Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life. Nowadays people, they don't take it seriously at all. So we have to be careful. Sometimes a minor sin, a small deed, it has more damage than a major sin. It's a major sin if a person does it, they might do tawbah. A minor sin, a person will do it without thinking anything about it. And then they'll belittle it. It's like if there's a bonfire that they do outside sometimes, in these youth retreats, it's not causing any damage. But if somebody takes a little match and throws it here, Khuda na khasta, the whole building can burn down. It also depends upon time, attitude, conditions. A minor sin can be very destructive. So a person has to be very careful about the things that they do. Many great people, again, you can't make any hukum off of this, but actually first we'll go to the hadith. In the hadith, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has told us certain people for seemingly small acts they're giving Jannah. A prostitute is given Jannah. Despite a life of sin, she's given Jannah for giving a dog what? Water to drink. A man, he was walking, what's this in the hadith as well. A man was walking, a branch was on the road. He just moved the branch because he said it might bother other people. Allah decided to give him Jannah on that. On the other hand, there is a woman who prayed tahajjud. She used to torture a cat, right? She didn't treat her cat well. She didn't give the cat food, water. Because of that, this woman was given Jahannam, right? Then we have so many great luminaries in our history. After they passed away, they came in people's dreams. For example, there was, I believe it was Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi, or maybe some other great scholar of Islam. It was said to him that when he died, he came in somebody's dream. Somebody asked him, what happened with you? He said, when I went in front of Allah, all of any good deed that I was asked about, I said, I did this. Allah would say, no, there was some problem with this, there was some problem. So he became worried he was going to Jahannam. Then he said, I've forgiven you. He said, what do you forgive me for? He said that there was one time you were writing something, and then a fly came and it sat on your ink pot and it began to drink some of the ink, and you needed ink in your pen. You're about to put the ink inside, right? And then you thought to yourself, look, it's not hurting anyone if I put my pen inside of this ink pot, the fly is going to fly away. Let me just wait a minute. After a moment or two, the fly flew away, but you showed mercy to this creature. On this basis, I give you Jannah. Imam Muhammad bin Hassan al-Shaybani rahmatullahi alayhi, Imam Abu Hanifa's one of his main two students. When he passed away, he came in somebody's dream. And somebody said, what happened with you? He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he was saying my deeds this way, that way, this, everything. There was some problem with it. So I became worried. But then Allah said, oh Muhammad, I wouldn't have given you that knowledge if I wanted to punish you. You go to Jannah. So they asked, what about Imam Abu Yusuf? He said, Imam Abu Yusuf was 2 levels above me in Jannah. Imam Abu Yusuf is Imam Abu Hanifa's other student. Yeah, what about Imam Abu Hanifa? He said, Imam Abu Hanifa was at the a'la illiyin, high levels of Jannah. So many people follow his faith throughout the world. But little deeds that we don't think about, they can be a means of Jannah. What we have to do is we have to take the initiative. Now comes what happened today, right? This, again, it's nothing from me. I'm just saying it. Inshallah, it'll inspire you if a thought comes to your mind to do this. There was a nikah we had to do today. The guy was white, right? He was a convert. He converted like 4 or 5 years ago. So he's the convert. There was a girl that came. She was wearing a hijab, everything. She's brown skinned. But then, like her family members that were with her, they looked Chaldean, and nobody else was wearing hijab. So I asked her, are you Chaldean? She said, no, I'm Jordanian. Okay, maybe she's Muslim. Or I thought maybe she took Shahada before or something. But right before the nikah, she's like, I want to take my Shahada. So, oh, you're Christian? She said, yeah. You couldn't tell because her name, everything is Muslim. She's wearing a hijab. She's with a Muslim to marry a Muslim. So I said, okay. So then we read the Shahada. And while she's reading the Shahada, she begins to cry. It's very emotional. So Allah put this thought in my heart. Otherwise, usually we won't do it. We'll say, oh, what will people think? It seems like we're pressuring people or this and that. This thought came in my mind. So her family was there. The groom's family was there too. They're white. So I just said, look, she took the Shahada. Does anybody else want to take Shahada? So then her father said, yes, I'll take Shahada now. He's Jordanian, he knows Arabic, he lives in a Muslim country. He knew the Shahada. She said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. He said, subhanallah. I said, okay, what about anyone else? So then he told his son, well, you should take the Shahada too. So his son thought about it, he said, okay, yeah, I'll do it as well. But I don't know the words. I said, no problem, I'll tell you the words. So he took Shahada as well. Then he asked his wife. The wife said no. His daughter said no. But he said, you should. They didn't. But inshallah, Allah will give them hidayah. But something so small, right? Who knows what it was at that moment, why he took it. He lived in a Muslim country all his life, right? It's just Allah put that thought in my heart at that moment. And it's not about me. It's just, there's so many thoughts come in our heart about little good things to do. Then we think, what will somebody think? What will happen? This or that. But for whatever reason, I said, let's just do it. So I asked, alhamdulillah, 2 people, like it's a buy one, get 2 free, right? MashaAllah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us all to get these little good deeds. I've said this before, in the Quran it says, وَبَدَا لَهُمْ سَيِّئَاتٍ. So, وَبَدَا لَهُمْ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَمْ يَكُونُوا يَحْتَسِبُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that وَلَوْ أَنَّ لِلَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا وَمِثْلَهُ مَعَهُ لَافْتَدَوْا بِهِ مِنْ سُوءِ الْعَذَابِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. That if the people who do zulm on the day of judgment, if they wanted to take the entire world and double that and give it to Allah to ransom themselves away from the punishment and the evil that's coming to them on the day of judgment, they won't be able to. Not only that, وَبَدَا لَهُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَمْ يَكُونُوا يَحْتَسِبُونَ. Deeds will appear from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that they had no idea about. No idea about. So now this can be two possibilities. One is you have good deeds that are hiding, that you didn't even remember, and they come out. But Allah says for these people, وَبَدَا لَهُمْ سَيِّئَاتُ مَا كَسَبُوا. Bad deeds will come. Bad deeds that they will earn, that they didn't know. وَحَاقَ بِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا بِهِ يَسْتَهْزِئُونَ. That day that they used to mock, it'll encompass them. Right? Now think about that. We all have bad deeds that we're hiding, that we don't want anyone to know about. So have some good deeds that we don't have anybody know about as well. Have some good deeds that, something or the other, you do it and you forget about it. And it happens, right? You do something for somebody and then you just forget about it. But just do good. Do enough good that, mashallah, you have so many good deeds that it's not an aberration in your life, that you'll remember it for the rest of your life, right? Maybe that's an indication on me. But rather, you're doing so many good deeds that you don't even remember. You forget about the things that you do. But at the time when you need it, some things come out that you don't even remember. Some good deeds come to your aid at that time. And along with that, have some deeds. It's just an amal between you and Allah. Nobody knows about it. Pray some rakats in the middle of the night. Sponsor some orphan. Give money. Do something without anybody knowing but you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that will come to your aid on the day of judgment as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all tawfiq. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.